All right. Good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Coach Kevin Sparks here, and let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'd like to do as we get started is share my screen with you and point out a couple of things. First thing I'd like to point out is we have a Facebook group that coincides with this meetup group. It has the same name. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. We'd ask you to come join us. And the way to find us is just to go into your Facebook profile, find wherever it says search Facebook, type in, I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. And you can go ahead and join us. The other way to find us is to go to facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich as one word. All right. Next thing I want to point out is what we're in the process of going through at the moment. I think everybody here right now has been with us at least one other time, as far as I can tell. So I'm not going to give a ton of explanation right now of what we're doing. We've been running this particular group. Originally, we started November 5th of last year, and we've been going nice and strong since then. And what I want to do, though, is share with you what it is that we're going through. We started a little while back into a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. The author is Maxwell Maltz. He has since passed on. Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon. Why are we choosing, though? Why did we choose to go through this particular book? Because Maxwell Maltz has done a phenomenal job on a scientific level. He throws in some spiritual too, but on a scientific level, how we work. And what I mean by how we work, how our mind works, how it works consciously, how it works subconsciously, and how important it is that our self image is to us and the success that we have in manifesting what we want in our life. If we don't actually see ourselves as worthy, and by the way, we don't have to be worthy of anything. So when I say these words, we have this story in our mind that a lot of times that we have to deserve something or be worthy of something in order to receive it. Well, the truth of the matter is we don't have to be worthy or anything special like that. However, if our self-image doesn't feel comfortable with the idea of having the things that we are actually trying to manifest into our life, if our image of ourself and how we see ourselves and how we feel ourselves to be doesn't coincide and correlate with what it is we want in our life, our subconscious mind will sabotage us and we won't end up receiving what we want. However, if we can get our subconscious mind on board and cooperating, because our image of ourself sees ourself worthy and capable. And again, there's all these words that actually don't matter to the God in the universe. Okay. God in the universe are going to operate and give you what you ask for in the sense of return to you the vibration you put out. So it's not a matter of having to qualify for anything. But if we believe that there are qualifications necessary for us to receive what we want, if we don't see and feel ourselves worthy of whatever it is, then again, our subconscious mind will keep that thing that we feel that we want. It's going to keep it out of our life because it doesn't align with who we really, at a subconscious level, think we are. So we've got to change how our subconscious views things. And the only way to do that is to change what has been programmed in and have the opposite program running for us to help us instead of having a program running against us. Okay. So Maxwell Maltz has done a phenomenal job so far sharing with us how we can get to where we want to get to. And what I want to do really quick is show you how to get a copy of this yourself. I happen to own copies of it. However, a lot of times when we are going to go through something like this, if I can find a free version for you, I'll use that free version and we'll go through it together. That way you can go get it yourself and we could actually all be on the same page. Well, let's see. I need to remember 158 because that's where we are right now. We're on 158. So I'm going to click back and show you where we got the book. 158 is what I need to remember. Okay, psychocybernetics PDF. That's what I typed into a Google search. All right. And I went through several. The one that I liked actually for me popped up at the top. Sometimes I like the first one, sometimes I like different ones. I like this one. And the way to find it is look what it says right here, psycho-cybernetics, those are caps, by maxwellmaltz-wordpress.com. That's just the description. It's on a website that says ding, dingwallasc.files.wordpress.com, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm just sharing that with you because if you type this in right now, you will be able to probably see one of the examples that come up that will be this. Go ahead and click on it and it should open up into a PDF file here. Yep, here we go. Just opened up. By the way, it doesn't download or anything while you're doing this. It just opens up directly to the file. You can use your own download function to go ahead and save it to your device, all right? Like I did, but what I'm gonna do is go back to 158 because that's where we had left off. Blow this up a bit bigger. I think I said 158. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Let me move some things around here so we can get into this. Let me see something here for a moment. Is that where we were? Here we go. All right, so this is where we left off yesterday. What I'm gonna do is start reading. I will share commentary where I think it might be helpful or appropriate. And then what we do is we tend to save around 10 to 15 minutes towards the end for you guys to participate in and what we mean is you can go ahead and make whatever comments you want to make or ask whatever questions you like to ask. So there'll be an appropriate time to do that. We'll leave 10, 15 minutes or so to be able for you to do that. For now, though, I'm going to jump in and start reading. And here we go. The feeling of insecurity is based upon a concept or belief of inner inadequacy. If you feel that you do not measure up to what is required, you feel insecure. A great deal of insecurity is not due to the fact that our inner resources are actually inadequate, but due to the fact that we use a false measuring stick. We compare our actual abilities to an imagined ideal, perfect or absolute self. Think of yourself in terms of absolutes induces insecurity. Think about that. Thinking of yourself in terms of absolutes induces insecurity. The insecure person feels that he should be good, period. He should be successful, period. He should be happy, competent, poised, period. These are all worthy goals, but they should be thought of, at least in their absolute sense, as goals to be achieved, as something to reach for, rather than as shoulds. Since man is a goal-striving mechanism, the self realizes itself fully only when man is moving forward towards something. Remember our comparison with the bicycle in a previous chapter? Man maintains his balance, poise, and sense of security only as he is moving forward or seeking. When you think of yourself as having attained the goal, you become static and you lose the security and equilibrium you had when you were moving towards something. The man who is convinced that he is good in the absolute sense not only has no incentive to do better, but he feels insecure because he must defend the sham and pretense. The man who thinks he has arrived has about used up his usefulness to us. The president of a large business said to me, when someone called Jesus good, he admonished him, why callest thou me good? There is but one good, and that is the Father. St. Paul is generally regarded as a good man, yet his own attitude was, I count myself not to have achieved, but I press on toward the goal. Keep your feet on solid ground. It is insecure trying to stand on top of a pinnacle. Mentally, get down off your high horse and you'll feel more secure. This has very practical applications. It explains the underdog psychology in sports. When a championship team begins to think of itself as the champions, they no longer have to fight for, but a status to defend. Or yeah, no longer have something to fight for, but a status to defend. The champions are defending something, trying to prove something. The underdogs are fighting to do something and often bring about an upset. I used to know a boxer who fought well until he won the championship. In his next fight, he lost the championship and looked bad doing so. After losing the title, he fought well again and regained the championship. A wise manager said to him, "You can fight as well as champion as when you're a contender if you'll remember one thing. When you step into that ring, you aren't defending the championship, you're fighting for it. You have got it. You've laid it on the line when you crawl through the ropes." The mental attitude which engenders insecurity is a way. It is a way of sustaining sham and pretense for reality. It is a way of proving to yourself and others your superiority. But it is self-defeating. If you are perfect and superior now, then there's no need to fight, grapple, and try. In fact, if you're caught trying real hard, it may be considered evidence that you're not superior. So you don't try. You lose your fight or your will to win. Loneliness. All of us are lonely at times. I don't know who's using annotate. Maybe I did that, whatever. All of us are lonely at times. Again, it is a natural penalty we pay for being human and individual, but it is the extreme and chronic feeling of loneliness, of being cut off and alienated from other people, that is a symptom of the failure mechanism. This type of loneliness is caused by an alienation from life. It is a loneliness from your real self. The person who is alienated from his real self has cut himself off from the basic and fundamental contact with life. The lonely person often sets up a vicious cycle. Because of his feeling of alienation from self, human contacts are not very satisfying, and he becomes a social recluse. In doing so, he cuts himself off from one of the pathways to finding himself, which is to lose oneself in social activities with other people. Doing things with other people and enjoying things with other people helps us forget ourselves. In stimulating conversation, in dancing, playing together, or in working together for a common goal, we become interested in something other than maintaining our own shams and pretenses. And we get to know the other fellow. As we get to know the other fellow, we feel less need for pretense. We unthaw and become more natural. The more we do this, the more we feel we can afford to dispense with the sham and pretense and feel more comfortable just being ourselves. Loneliness is a way that doesn't work. Loneliness is a way of self-protection. Lines of communication with other people, and especially any emotional ties, are cut down. It is a way to protect our idealized self against exposure, hurt, humiliation. The lonely personality is afraid of other people. The lonely person often complains that he has no friends. There are no people to mix with. In most cases, he unwittingly arranges things in this manner because of his passive attitude that it is up to other people to come to him, to make the first move, to see that he is entertained. It never occurs to him that he should contribute something to any social situation. Regardless of your feelings, force yourself to mix and mingle with other people. After the first cold plunge, you will find yourself warming up and enjoying it if you persist. Develop some social skill that will add to the happiness of other people. Dancing, bridge, playing the piano, tennis, conversation. It is an old psychological axiom that constant exposure to the object of fear immunizes against the fear. As the lonely person continues to force himself into social relations with other human beings, not in a passive way, but as an active contributor, he or she will gradually find that most people are friendly and that he or she is accepted. His or her shyness and timidity begin to disappear. He or she feels more comfortable in the presence of other people and with him or herself. The experience of their acceptance of him enables him to accept himself. Uncertainty. Albert Hubbard said the greatest mistake a man can make is to be afraid of making one. Let me repeat that. The greatest mistake a man or woman can make is to be afraid of making one. Uncertainty is a way of avoiding mistakes and responsibility. It is based upon the fallacious premise that if no decision is made, nothing can go wrong. Being wrong holds untold horrors to the person who tries to conceive of himself as perfect. He is never wrong and always perfect in all things. If he were ever wrong, his picture of a perfect, all-powerful self would crumble. Therefore, decision-making becomes a life or death matter. One way is to avoid as many decisions as possible and prolong them as much as possible. Another way is to have a handy scapegoat to blame. This type of person makes decisions, but he makes them hastily, prematurely, and is well known for going off half-cocked. Making decisions offers him no problem at all. He is perfect. It is impossible for him to be wrong in any case. Therefore, why consider facts or consequences? He is able to maintain this fiction when his decisions backfire simply by convincing himself that it was someone else's fault. It is easy to see why both types fail. One is continually in hot water from impulsive and ill-considered actions. The other is stymied because he will not act at all. In other words, the uncertainty of being right doesn't work. Nobody is right all the time. Realize that it is not required that a man be 100% right at all times. No baseball batter has ever had 1,000 average. If he is right 3 times out of 10, he is considered good. The great Babe Ruth, who holds the record for the most home runs, or at least used to, that's how old the book is, also holds the record for the most strikeouts. It is in the nature of things that we progress by acting, making mistakes, and correcting course. A guided torpedo literally arrives at its target by making a series of mistakes and continually correcting its course. You cannot correct your course if you're standing still. You cannot change or correct nothing. You must consider the known facts in a situation. Imagine possible consequences of various courses of action. Choose one that seems to offer the best solution and bet on it. You can correct your course as you go. Let me repeat that. You cannot change or correct nothing. You must consider the facts known in a situation. Imagine possible consequences of various course actions. Choose one that seems to offer the best solution and bet on it. You can correct your course as you go. Only little men are never wrong. Another help in overcoming uncertainty is to realize the role that self-esteem and the protection of self-esteem plays in indecisiveness. Many people are indecisive because they fear loss of self-esteem if they're proved wrong. Use self-esteem for yourself instead of against yourself by convincing yourself of this truth. Big men and big personalities make mistakes and admit them. It is the little man who's afraid to admit he's been wrong. No man ever became great or good except through many and great mistakes, said Gladstone. I've learned more from my mistakes than from my successes, said Sir Humphrey Davy. We learn wisdom from failure much more than from success. We often discover what we will do by finding out what we will not do, and probably he who never made a mistake never made a discovery. Samuel Smiles. Mr. Edison worked endlessly on a problem using the method of elimination. If a person asked him whether he were discouraged because so many attempts proved unavailing, he would say, no, I'm not discouraged, because every wrong attempt discarded is another step forward. That's what Mrs. Edison said about Thomas Edison. Resentment. When the failure type personality looks for a scapegoat or excuse for his failure, he often blames society, the system, life, the breaks. He resents the success and happiness of others because it is proof to him that life is shortchanging him and he's being treated unfairly. Resentment is an attempt to make our own failure palatable by examining it in terms of unfair treatment, injustice. But as a salve for failure, resentment is a cure that is worse than the disease. It is a deadly poison to the spirit, makes happiness impossible, uses up tremendous energy, which could go into accomplishment. A vicious cycle is often set up. The person who always carries a grievance and has a chip on his shoulder does not make the best companion or coworker. When coworkers do not warm up to him, or the boss attempts to point out deficiencies in his work, he has additional reasons for feeling resentful. Resentment is a way that fails. Resentment is also a way of making us feel important. Many people get a perverse satisfaction from feeling wronged. The victim of injustice, the one who has been unfairly treated, is morally superior to those who caused the injustice. Resentment is also a way or an attempt to wipe out or eradicate a real or fancied wrong or injustice, which has already happened. The resentful person is trying to prove his case before the court of life, so to speak. If he can feel resentful enough and thereby prove the injustice, some magic process will reward him by making not so the event or circumstance which caused the resentment. In this sense, resentment is a mental resistance to, a non-acceptance of something which has already happened. The word itself comes from two Latin words, re, meaning back, and sentire, meaning to feel. So you refeel it. Resentment is an emotional rehashing or refighting of some event in the past. You cannot win because you're attempting to do the impossible, change the past. Resentment creates an inferior self-image. Resentment, even when based upon real injustices and wrongs, is not the way to win. It soon becomes an emotional habit. Habitually feeling that you're a victim of injustice, you begin to picture yourself in the role of a victimized person. You carry around an inner feeling which is looking for an external peg to hang itself on. It is then easy to see evidence of injustice or fancy you've been wronged in the most innocent remark or neutral circumstance. Habitual resentment invariably leads to self-pity, which is the worst possible emotional habit anyone can develop. When these habits have become firmly ensconced, a person does not feel right or natural when they're absent. They then literally begin to search for and look for injustices. Someone has said that such people feel good only when they are miserable. Emotional habits of resentment and self-pity also go with an ineffective inferior self-image. You begin to picture yourself as a pitiful person, a victim who is meant to be unhappy. The real cause of resentment. Remember that your resentment is not caused by other persons, events, or circumstances. It is caused by your own emotional response, your own reaction. You alone have power over this, and you can control it if you firmly convince yourself that resentment and self-pity are not ways to happiness and success, but ways to defeat and unhappiness. As long as you harbor resentment, it is literally impossible for you to picture yourself as a self-reliant, independent, self-determining person who is the captain of his soul, the master of his fate. The resentful person turns over his reins to other people. They are allowed to dictate how he shall feel, how he shall act. He is wholly dependent upon other people, just as a beggar is. He makes unreasonable demands and claims upon other people. If everyone else should be dedicated to making you happy, you will be resentful when it doesn't work out that way. If you feel that other people owe you eternal gratitude, undying appreciation, or continual recognition of your superlative worth, you will feel resentment. And when these debts are not paid, if life owes you a living, you become resentful when it isn't forthcoming. Resentment is therefore inconsistent with creative goal striving. In creative goal striving, you are the actor, not the passive recipient. You set the goals. No one owes you anything. You go after your own goals. You become responsible for your own success and happiness. Resentment doesn't fit into this picture because it doesn't. It is a failure mechanism. All right, emptiness. Perhaps as you read this chapter, you thought of someone who has been successful in spite of frustration, misdirected aggressiveness, resentment, etc. But do not be too sure. Many people acquire the outward symbols of success, but when they go to open the long sought for treasure chest, they find it empty. It is as if the money they have strained so hard to attain turns to counterfeit in their hands. Along the way, they lost the capacity to enjoy. And when you've lost the capacity to enjoy, no amount of wealth or anything else can bring success or happiness. These people win the nut of success, but when they crack it open, it is empty. A person who has the capacity to enjoy is still alive within him, finds enjoyment in many ordinary and simple things in life. He also enjoys whatever success in a material way he has achieved. The person in whom the capacity to enjoy is dead can find enjoyment in nothing. No goal is worth working for. Life is a terrible bore. Nothing is worthwhile. You can see these people by the hundreds, night after night, knocking themselves out in nightclubs, trying to convince themselves that they are enjoying it. They travel from place to place, become entangled in a world of parties, hoping to find enjoyment, always finding an empty shell. The truth is that joy is an accompaniment of creative function, of creative goal striving. It is possible to win a fake success, but when you do, you're penalized with an empty joy. Life becomes worthwhile when you have worthwhile goals. Emptiness is a symptom that you're not living creatively. You either have no goal that is important enough to you, or you're not using your talents and efforts in striving toward an important goal. It is the person who has no purpose of his own who pessimistically concludes life has no purpose. It is the person who has no goal worth working for who concludes life is not worthwhile. It is the person with no important job to do who complains there's nothing to do. The individual who is actively engaged in a struggle or in striving towards an important goal does not come up with pessimistic philosophies concerning the meaningless or the futility of life. Emptiness is not a way that wins. The failure mechanism is self-perpetuating unless we step in and break the vicious cycle. Emptiness, when once experienced, can become a way of avoiding effort, work, and responsibility. It becomes an excuse or a justification for non-creative living. If all is vanity, if there is no new thing under the sun, if there is no joy to be found anyway, why bother? Why try? If life is just a treadmill, if we work 8 hours a day so we can afford a house to sleep in, so we can sleep 8 hours to become rested for another day's work, why get excited about it? All these intellectual reasons vanish, however, and we do expect expert experience. There we go. Typo, that's why. All these intellectual reasons vanish, however, and we do experience joy and satisfaction when we get off the treadmill, stop going around in circles, and select some goal we're striving for and go after it. Emptiness and inadequate self-image go together. Emptiness may also be the symptom of an inadequate self-image. It is impossible to psychologically accept something that you feel does not belong to you. Okay, this is important when talking about manifesting what you want, or it is not consistent with yourself. Let me repeat that. It is impossible to psychologically accept something that you feel does not belong to you or is not consistent with yourself. The person who holds an unworthy and an undeserving self-image may hold his negative tendencies in check long enough to achieve a genuine success, then be able to accept it psychologically and enjoy it. He may even feel guilty about it as if he had stolen it. His negative self-image may even spur such a person on to achievement by the well-known principle of overcompensation. but I do not subscribe to the theory that one should be proud of his inferiority complex or thankful for it, because it sometimes leads to the external symbols of success. When success finally comes, such a person feels little sense of satisfaction or accomplishment. He is unable to take credit in his own mind for his accomplishments. To the world, he is a success. He himself still feels inferior, undeserving, almost as if he was a thief and had stolen the status symbols, which he thought were so important. If my friends and associates really knew what a phony I am, he would say. This reaction is so common that psychiatrists refer to it as the success syndrome. The man who feels guilty, insecure, and anxious when he realizes he has succeeded. This is the reason that success has become a bad word. Real success never hurt anyone. Striving for goals which are important to you, not as status symbols, but because they're consistent with your own deep inner wants, is healthful. Striving for a real success, for your success, through creative accomplishment, brings a deep inner satisfaction. Striving for a phony success to please others brings a phony satisfaction. Okay, let's go ahead and we will stop there for the reading. And everybody here, I believe, well, let's see here. Okay, let me go ahead and explain what we're doing now. Now is your opportunity to share what you like to share or ask whatever questions you would like to ask. So what is appropriate to share about? Well, we've been around for a while, so if you've been with us for a while, you can share anything in relationship to what we've gone over in the past, or maybe what it is that we've gone over today and what it's meant to you, or maybe something you learned from it. The other thing that would be appropriate to share is anything that you've intentionally manifested in your life, like you set a particular goal or intention for something to manifest, and it actually came about in your life, whether that be money or wealth, which would be great examples, but any other type of thing that you could share that's positive would be awesome. The other thing you can do is go ahead and ask questions. So what questions would be appropriate? Well, what would be appropriate, first of all, would be anything, questions in relationship to what we've gone over in the past, any questions in relationship to what we went over today, and or anything that we want questions in relationship to adding more money and wealth in our life. So if you have something that you would like to share, just come off of mute and go ahead and share with us.
Okay, finally. I would really like that book, sir.
You do or you don't?
No, I do. I really
Oh,
like the
okay.
book that you're reading
Okay.
on PDF because I've been studying emotional intelligence for about 5 or 6 years of my life.
Cool.
And someone who's been autistic, I've learned that a lot of people who are autistic go through emotional extremisms.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why I liked what you read. And I listened to you in what I could about emptiness and insecurity and stuff of that nature. I also have to say, um, I did watch The Secret
Cool. Cool.
and I felt a lot of groundwork for me to do based upon that movie.
Cool. Cool. Good, good.
Thanks, because it's really hard for me to talk about that because it was a lot of information similar to what I felt when I read The Right Use of Will.
Yeah.
But it helped because it helped me, and I did started praying a little bit, and I do start going into my head and start imagining the kind of body that I want and imagining, in a way that God can help me build up my health. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Good, good.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm glad that you watched it. I'm glad that you liked it. And obviously, it is something I recommend, depending on what your schedule's like, that you watch frequently. If you were to watch it every day for a week straight and then once a week for the rest of the year, that would be a good idea. Because I like it, not because it covers everything and it's perfect. I like it though, because you get a lot of your senses are touched. I mean, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but it is something visual that you can watch. It's something you can listen to. And if
Yeah.
you were to actually go get the book is essentially a transcription of the movie.
Yeah, it is. And actually, there is a book of it, Books a Million.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much to me similar to the magical form of grounding.
Yeah.
Because I've learned how to do that, which basically you write like rules and boundaries that you go by, and then you focus on those boundaries and creating those boundaries to the point where it gives you the attraction of what you want
Yeah, that's
out
good.
of life. Yeah,
Yeah. It helps clarify what you really want versus what you don't. Anytime.
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. You're welcome. Before I end, did you download the Right Use of Will, any of the
Not
PDFs?
yesterday, no, because I was in the middle of coaching a lot of different people. That's my profession, is I am a law of attraction coach. So I have clients that come to me and I have schedules and things like that. So no, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get the opportunity to hop into that just yet. That's why I never promised I would. I just said that I would get to around to it, because it does sound very interesting and helpful too. Um, I've been in this field and around this stuff for, well, originally takes me back to February of 2006. So yes, I'm not saying I know everything. I'm always, always, always learning. But I
Yeah.
didn't want to promise you I would put the same effort into that as you were going to put into watching the movie, because I understand what I needed to do. And also I have a lot of material available that is pretty much, so at least to this point, has covered me receiving what I want and also helps me coach other people. So
Okay.
that doesn't mean that what you offered is not a good thing. I just knew it was going to be tough for me yesterday to get into it. But I do intend to, because it sounds very interesting.
Thank you, and I hope you do, because, like I said, once you start reading it, you might as well just read the whole 8 series of it, because it's an 8 book
Yeah,
series.
that's the other part too, is right, the commitment that I would be making, where I actually spend about 3 hours a day in my own study of things I've already committed to. So,
Yeah,
but cool. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Uh-huh.
May I ask what that series of books are?
It's called The Right Use of Will
Okay.
by Sienna D. Rohan.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can go ahead and type it into chat.
yes, that's what I'm going to do right now.
Perfect.
.com. That's the website. This is the name of the series. Hold on, let me make sure.
That's all right. Just type it in. Let me go ahead and continue on with questions and comments from people
Thank
while
you.
you're
Mhm.
typing that in. Okay.
Just put it on my reading list.
Hey, Kev,
Hey, Stephanie.
could you go over the principle of overcompensation that you were reading? I didn't quite grasp what he was talking about there.
Hang on. Let's go back to it. Let's find it first. I know it was pretty quick. I wish I remembered exactly what page it was.
I think it was 168. So I think
Okay, I think it was right before this. Okay.
yeah.
Hang on. Read backwards. Oh, I bet I know, but let me find it.
You're close.
Yeah, I know.
There it is.
Let's see. Maybe. Okay, hold on a second here. He may even feel guilty about it, as if he had stolen it. His negative self-image may even spur such a person onto achievement by the well-known principle of overcompensation. You know what it predominantly, I would say the word to talk about there would, if you're going back to The Science of Getting Rich, which I know not everybody on here's read that, but a lot of us have, and takes us way back to November. And some of us very currently, that would be the competitive, they switch over to the competitive
Okay.
side of things instead of the creative. But the other part too is we kind of have the ability as human beings, well, not kind of, we do, under stress, strain in certain situations, we can do things like where a mom to save a child can lift something heavier than she can normally lift, right? There is the ability to do things in spurts to try and, overcome whatever it is that we're dealing with. But eventually, let's say the mom did lift the car, off the child, not the whole car above her head, but, whatever was needed. Let's say it was needed to be lifted for a moment so the child could get out. Well, if you lifted because you were given that extra strength and the child didn't get out, you'd be screaming, get out, while you're lifting it. Eventually, if the child either couldn't or chose not to get out, at some point you still wouldn't be able to hold the car up any longer. It's not a power that's given indefinitely, right? It's kind of like a turbo boost on our motor.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Let me put this back where it was, just so I'll remember where I was yesterday. When we come on yesterday, when we come back on Monday. Okie doke.
Okay, before you go.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I was just switching back to the screen.
I know. I'm sorry, but can you zip that? Can you zip that file or something?
Can I what now?
Zip the PDF file of the book.
Here's what you go do. So you weren't, go back. I showed you right when we first got on, you just disappeared on us.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I had to really do something. So
okay. All right. So where you get a copy of it, okay, remember 169, I need to remember that so I know where we're at. All I did is I went back, I Googled Psycho-Cybernetics PDF. You see that?
Yeah.
The first thing, and it may not be the first one that comes up for you, it doesn't matter. There's a zillion copies, but this is the one we're using. So this came up first for me. I liked it. So that's the one I chose. So it's the Psycho-Cybernetics in caps by Maxwell Maltz -wordpress.com. And then it says ding, DINGWALLASC.files.wordpress.com. Who cares what it says? I clicked on it and the book pops up just like that. You can always use your download function to download it onto your device. And then we are currently on 169.
Okay. All right. Let me try to see if I can do that.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to get out of this.
Yeah. But anyhow, go ahead and do that, but please go on mute so I can listen to other people.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right. That way we can keep going. Anybody else with any comments or questions?
Kevin, that thing that you were talking about, that people can do extraordinary things at certain times.
Yeah.
Years ago, when I was still fairly young, I was going from San Diego to Ventura, and right where it splits, there was a van, an older kind of van, and it had a bunch of teenage boys in it. And I don't know what happened. I have no idea. I was several cars behind, but suddenly they just tipped over. And those of us behind them all kind of went to the side, right?
Yeah.
I actually got hit by somebody backing up to leave the scene.
Okay.
But I got out, and 2 or 3 other people, I don't remember now. Do you know that us, a handful of people, lifted that van off of the teenager that was driving? He got pinned under the car. Today I'm like, how on earth did we do that? But we did it. We lifted that thing off of that young boy.
Because you didn't think about how hard it was going to be. You only thought about the goal, which is I got to get this kid out. There was no, your subconscious had only one thing, and you put it right in there. It was an emotional, it was, so we can change our subconscious like that
Yeah.
with something that's that powerful emotionally. Okay. And that's what happened to you. Collectively, in fact, you all had exactly the same goal. Your emotions were fired in the same way. None of you doubted you could do it. None of you sat around and said, okay, should we try this? None of you sat around and said, how heavy do you think that van is? None of you, you had one thing and one thing only, get that kid out.
Yeah.
And you all probably rushed or whatever together, went over, and you just did your thing, and everybody had, collectively, there was enough strength that you did something you wouldn't normally. Now, if you went back and tried to, okay, kids out and everything, and later on you guys all had a good laugh and the van's still sitting there, and after, you go out to lunch and you go back, hey, let's go see if we could lift that van. Nah.
And after we got the van off him, his whole leg was crushed. His whole leg, it was just crushed. He was screaming and crying. And I now remember I was the only female that stopped. And I went up to him and I just took his hand and start stroking his face gently. And I told him, just listen to my voice. Take your mind away from your leg. Listen to my voice, while the others were trying to help him and calling paramedics and everything. And I start telling him about Hawaii.
Yeah,
The
something.
waves, the smell of the air, the palm trees. Because, I was going back and forth to Hawaii then, so I have really fresh memories. And he actually, he must have had a very strong mind, because he actually he was able to remove his mind from what they were doing, and what they were doing had to be killing him. And he calmed down, and I told him, just stay with me, just listen to my voice. And I just calmly explained this stuff to him. And then when the paramedics came and they start working on him, they told me to keep going.
Sure. Yeah, they knew it.
I didn't know what I was saying. I just kept saying about the trees, the smell of the air, the birds, just everything I could think of.
Yeah, well, God used you as a tool, basically, to hypnotize and mesmerize this kid.
Apparently, because he calmed. He was pretty calm. That was really blessing. It was a real blessing.
So what happened there, in a different sense, all of you could induce in your own life. God is trying to do the same thing with all of us. The pain that we're going through, the suffering that we deal with, he's saying, look, let me go take care of you. Here's how. I want you to go to a different place in your mind. I want you to go somewhere else for now and stay there. Go for what you want in your mind and stay there, and let me do the work. And then when I've got you out from under the van, and when I've actually, not only that, when I've performed surgery on you, and when you come out healed, then you will have the result that you want. But until then, don't go back and forth from worry to state of bliss, worry to state of bliss. Stay in your state of bliss. Stay in your state of faith. Stay in your state of joy and happiness. And God's saying, let me in the universe do the work. If there's anything we need to wake you up for, we'll wake you up long enough to do your thing and then go back into your state of bliss. But that's where you need to spend your time, so that we can do all the work that needs to be done, because we've all been through the trauma. We're all sort of sitting underneath a van right now.
Yeah.
And so we need to listen to them, and listen to God, listen to intuition, listen to revelation, inspiration, and they're trying to teach us right now through what other people have written already years ago. Things like what, Maxwell Maltz is talking about, things like what Wallace Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich talks about. God's given us all kinds of teachers and instruction. And he's just saying, look, I already said, I'll give you the stuff. Okay. I'm here for you. I'll give you the stuff. In order to receive it, though, because if that kid had been hysterical, if you hadn't been there and listened, you intuitively, but you listened to what God wanted you to do. God spoke to you at a subconscious level. and you went and did it, and then the kid had to do his part and pay attention to you. But if the kid hadn't done that part, if he'd been hysterical at that point, because he kind of was until it got out right, it's but once you went over there, once the kid calmed down, guess what? People were able to help him. But until he was had the ability to calm down, nothing anybody was going to do was going to help him unless they drugged him and knocked him out, so that he'd be unconscious. So he would now be subconscious, so that now he would quit, fighting the help that he was supposed to receive. Cool. Thank you for sharing. That's pretty cool. Cool stuff. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Hi, Kevin. How are you today?
I'm terrific. How are you, Takira?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. I like this chapter that talks about what I'm kind of feeling like. I felt yesterday a little, not lonely, but like something was missing, like a pet. And I started pretending I had a puppy named Sugar. And I'm thinking like, well, I gotta walk this dog. Do I really want a dog? Or am I just feeling lonely? Then I'm like, I would like a cat, but I don't like cats. Then I'm like, okay, have some children, but I don't have a man. So I'm just like, what is going on? But I told you yesterday how I was living in my imagination. And you're saying, just now how to just focus on what we want, stay in that bliss, and God will make it all happen. But in the interim, if loneliness comes, what do we do? Like if I want a dog, and I'm not sure if that's a solid want or just a feeling of loneliness.
Right. So what do you think it would be? Is it a true, it doesn't sound like you're like, well, I want to travel and I don't want to have Sugar with me because, right?
Well, I would
or
love
do you
to
want
travel
Sugar?
with Sugar.
So that's an interesting thing, because we do deal with that too. Some people have pets and they'll take them anywhere, and they'll go through whatever they have to. And some people don't have pets either because they don't like them, or they don't want to feel like they have another kid they got to take care of, right? So, but from a loneliness standpoint, then talk to someone.
Yeah, but I'm really not like, oh my God, like
No, I know.
I really love to be by myself, but I think
Yeah.
yesterday I felt like something was missing. Not like, oh my God, I need to phone a friend. Just more like maybe I do need something tangible. But then I'm like, that's external, trying to get something outside of me.
Uh-huh.
So, or maybe I'm not really lonely. I don't know. I just felt it yesterday, but it could be the hormonal changes as a woman.
Yeah.
So, that could be it too.
We all, we all, even those of us, we could be around 100 people and feel lonely too.
That's true. That is
So
true.
it's sometimes I'm worn out. Maybe it could be, which the hormonal thing you talked about could be, I'm a little bit more worn out and I just want someone to take care of me.
Yeah, it's just the monthly thing, I think, because I'm normally not feeling that, because I feel full of God's presence all the time, or he'll attract me to something to listen to, or to speak to someone, or watch something, or dance.
So let me ask you a
Wow.
question. You felt that at the time, right? Is the feeling still with you, or is it kind of dissolved?
It's totally dissolved.
Well, then it doesn't matter.
Oh, wow. Cannot.
Well, you were successful in changing your vibe.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, is that a real
feeling? It
feeling?
was a real feeling. We all have feelings, they're real to us, right? There's no such thing as an unreal feeling. It doesn't mean it's a truthful thing, but it's a feeling. So it's either feels good or it feels bad. Well, loneliness isn't high on the vibration scale. So at that particular time, you weren't feeling the best. I don't know if you chose to do afterwards, or if you just kind of let go and took a nap, or if you did something fun. But whatever you did, or else you would be feeling the same way right now, Tom.
Yeah.
That's why I
asked. It was late at night time. And I ended up putting on a guided meditation,
Okay,
and I let my body go to sleep.
perfect.
Yeah.
You woke
So I'm
up.
like, okay, but I don't know if I really want this dog or not. So, because I know that
That's up to
my
you.
landlord says, yeah, my landlord already said no, we cannot have pets. So I don't even know. But I know you say, oh, you can manifest it. The story we read before about the dog, the grandchild who manifested the puppy. So I could do it.
Yeah.
I just have to
Well,
figure if I
as
want it.
adults, we can all get a pet easier than that kid, right? We can all
Yeah.
go out somewhere today and go get a pet if we want one.
Not if the landlord says no pets
Well, we
allowed.
can, we just can get in trouble for it.
I'm done. You're awesome.
I'm
Thanks,
not telling you don't do
Kevin.
it, right? But I'm just,
I like your train of thought.
yeah, I'm just,
It can still be done, is what you're saying.
yeah, I
But
mean,
I won't do it without his permission.
well, is it some, yeah, I don't know if you should have a pet or not.
Yeah, me either. I'm gonna pray about it. I'll let you know by next week.
If you're trying to use the pet as your healing, as your doctor, as your whatever, is that source of love. Pets are cool, like it said in the movie The Secret, because they just kind of have this unlimited, this natural, they love everybody until they have a reason not to. I shouldn't say everybody. There's some mean, animals out there, but they've been trained that way or been taught that way.
Mhm.
But, your own pet likes you, loves you, hopefully.
Yeah.
Wags its tail and licks you and does whatever and makes you feel wanted. So it puts you in a good vibration. Bob Proctor, he has a couple little dogs. I don't right now.
Mhm.
We talked about it mostly because we don't know if we want to be concerned about them when we move around and travel and stuff. So
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
You're the best because I didn't even look at
Well,
it about
is it on your
pricing.
300 list, any kind of pet, when you originally wrote the list?
I think it is. I gotta go back and check. I know you're there. I know you're at 134.
That's it, huh?
You made it to the cut. But I actually didn't finish. I have about 100 more to go. So I'm gonna check and see if it's up there. It might not be. I don't know, but that's a good question. I'll find out. If not, if she's going up there, Sugar. And if I have two, it will be named Sunshine. So Sugar and Sunshine.
Cool.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments before we see each other on Monday? Okie dokie. Well, we will be back Monday through Friday next week. Thank you guys, and you all have an amazing weekend.
Thanks, Kevin. You too.
You're welcome.